Liverpool won, Arsenal won. Arsenal are top of the league at Christmas. Does that mean that they're going to go on and win the league? Does that mean that Liverpool are going to go on and not win the league? Who knows? But what I do know for certain is that this game taught us a lot about both teams going forward for the rest of the season. And the first place to start is with the lineups, because I think Arsenal's lineup was significantly stronger than Liverpool's on paper. I think Arteta finally made his mind up on what he thinks is his best 11, and I think that's the team that's going to be playing the majority of the games going forward, bar any injuries and rotation. I think Kai Havertz in that midfield next to Odegaard and Rice is the perfect player, and especially after his performance in this game. I think the front three of Martinelli, Jesus and Saka is an absolute, and I think that back line, when fully fit, which isn't often, is Arsenal's best defence as well. But then when you actually compare it to Liverpool, I think with the injuries that they have, Robertson out with the shoulder being dislocated, and then Tsimikas getting injured in this game. I think Joel Matip not being available for Liverpool, with Ibrahim Konate having to step in. I think Liverpool with no Alexis McAllister in that midfield, and I think going up front, especially Diego Jota, who's got such an incredible record against Arsenal. I think Liverpool did look like the weaker team on paper. However, you never underestimate this Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool side, and I think they did put in a very good performance on the day as well. But because of how strong I think this Arsenal team were on paper in comparison, and the fact that they're top of the league, I think they had the opportunity to go downfield today and play on the front foot. They didn't need to sit back and defend and hit on the counter-attack, which we've seen that they've done previously, and they did exactly that. From the very first minute, they attacked, they passed the ball forward, and they were getting at Liverpool and beating their men, and which resulted in the free kick which Odegaard took and Gabriel scoring the opening goal within 4 minutes. And I think it was really bad defending by Liverpool. Konate loses his man completely, and then Gakpo plays everyone on side, which ultimately results in a 1-0 for Arsenal. I think Alisson Becker also could have done a little bit better. I think he starts to come out for the ball and then retreats, and then he's kind of stuck in no man's land. And I think for someone who's arguably, in my opinion, the best goalkeeper in the world, I think he should have done better. But then, as you expect, Liverpool came into the game a lot more, being 1-0 down at home. The crowd got into it, and then Liverpool decided, okay, fine, we're going to take the initiative and we're going to play. And they did. And they struggled initially to get into the game. I think Arsenal defended deep and well and resolute, and Martinelli, I think, was exceptionally good at trying to hit back on the counter-attack. I think when he got the ball, he dribbled past a couple of players quite easily, and he really got Arsenal up the field with winning some free kicks as well. But Liverpool were in the ascendancy, and they were keeping going forward, keeping going to attack. And I think this is where it comes to the first controversy of the game, the Odegaard handball, and I've got a show for it here. Now, I want to say I'm a Liverpool fan. Obviously, I'm going to be biased. I think this is a Stonewall penalty. It should have been given. Regardless of who you support, if you think it wasn't a penalty, let me know, because I want to hear it in the comments below. Because I think on commentary, Gareth and Jim Carragher were saying, oh, he might have slipped a little bit to cause him off balance, so his hand is naturally going to be out there. I think that's a Stonewall penalty. I think there's been penalties being given for handball for a lot less than what was given against Odegaard, and I think that the right decision was to overturn it through VAR. However, like I said, I am biased. I will say that's a penalty for Liverpool. So if it isn't, let me know in the comments, because my Twitter's all Liverpool fans as well. So maybe neutral fans will have a better opinion of it. Of Arsenal fans, I'm assuming you don't think it's a penalty. But then eventually Liverpool, through all that pressure, do find that goal and finally do get the breakthrough to equalise it. And that was that man, Trent Alexander-Arnold, with the pass to the other key man, Mo Salah. And I think it's one where opposition teams really need to come up with a idea for Trent Alexander-Arnold, because ever since in the last time Liverpool played Arsenal, and back in the last season, Trent started to invert. Liverpool are exceptionally good with Trent on the ball, and it's very hard to dispossess him in particular and force him to make errors. And what this meant is that Trent, in between the two centre-backs, has all the time and space in the world, and Gabriel Jesus eventually did try and press Trent in this position. However, he was a bit slow, and I think he should have been quicker, and I think opposition teams need to be a bit quicker, because with this quality in the ball, we all know how good he is on the ball. He can be afforded that time and space just to pick out Mo Salah. And I think Zinchenko, which was the weakest area of that very strong Arsenal defence, that was going to be the key matchup. Zinchenko versus Salah, and on this occasion Salah won. And I think it was very easy for him to get past Zinchenko. I think Zinchenko should have done better, but I don't think Gabriel or David Raya could have done anything else. And I think you just have to tip your hat and say, what a fantastic goal. And Salah makes it 1-1. But as you expect, Arsenal from the other side do come up, and Saka finds himself past Joe Gomez, 1-on-1 with Alisson Becker, but unfortunately he just can't quite convert. And I think Gomez puts a little bit of pressure on him, which means that Saka's forced to take a bit of a heavy touch, and then Alisson smothers it. Eventually the ball finds its way to Martinelli, and unfortunately he shoots wide for Arsenal, because with Alisson not firmly on his goal line, I think that's a fantastic chance for Arsenal as well. But we go into half time, And I think it's one where Arsenal can be very happy with the performance in the first half, especially. I think they came downfield, they took the initiative first of all against a Liverpool side who were going to be going there and going to be going from the front foot. I think especially with Klopp and his comments midweek against West Ham. In fact, he was jeering up the crowd and asking them to, if you don't want to, if you're not going to cheer for the side, please give your ticket to someone else, which is ballsy, but it was intended to get the Anfield crowd to be like at a fever pitch and cause a ruckus. And to Arsenal take that initial initiative, I think really shows growth and maturity from Arsenal, because not only that, they hung into it for a really good amount of time, unlike last season when they came downfield and then Xhaka and Trent Alexander-Arnold got into a bit of an altercation. They played the game really calm and they weren't actually riling up the crowd at all the Liverpool players. It was just a bit of poor defending from Zinchenko, but I think in the same way that Liverpool have that with Trent, arguably, you got to sacrifice the defensive sometimes for the offensive capabilities. I think Zinchenko also cost Arsenal a little bit in that situation. And it's one where I've said at the beginning that, I think that, this is Arsenal's strongest team, but defensively, maybe with Jurgen Timber or Tomiyasu, if he was fit, maybe they could have played left back and, maybe they could have nullified Mo Salah a bit more. But I'm not going to be too harsh on Zinchenko because I think what he brings in terms of his quality on the ball is fantastic. And then I think for Liverpool, it would just go again. I think especially after that Man United game, it was very cagey. Liverpool didn't really take their chances. So the fact that, Mo Salah does take that chance, I think we learned that, Mo Salah is, inevitable, but also he's so important for Liverpool in that first half. And then we go into that second half, and it is all Liverpool coming out of that second half. And the pressing, the intensity, but the only thing the Liverpool were lacking in that second half was the final product. It was actually very, very poor. And it's one where, I think Endo was fantastic. I think Dominic Szoboszlai defensively was fantastic. Curtis Jones was fantastic on the ball and off the ball. He's very underrated and often doesn't get the credit he deserves because he's not as flashy as some other midfielders and he doesn't get the goals and assists as much as he probably should do and probably what he's aiming for. But I think Liverpool were all over Arsenal in the beginning of that second half, I should say. And I think it really showed in the fact that they couldn't create any chances and then convert any of the chances that they did get. And I think it was very poor from Liverpool in the final third because a lot of huffing and puffing, but really, I think Arsenal had it solidified. And then we come to a point in the game where Arsenal were obviously going to get their foot on the ball, play passes, and put Liverpool under a bit of pressure, and they did. I think there was a 5-minute spell where they had 81% of the possession, Liverpool barely touched the ball. And then that resulted in the Havertz shout for a penalty. And this is one where I don't think it was. Obviously, Havertz is facing up with Ibrahim Konate, and then Trent Alexander-Arnold comes from behind, applies a bit of pressure with his shoulder, pushes him, but does he tangle his legs? I don't think he does, but it is needless because Trent Alexander-Arnold doesn't get the ball at all, and he makes a motion towards Kai Havertz. So it's one where I don't think it's enough contact for it to be a penalty, but there's no reason for Trent Alexander-Arnold to make the contact on Kai Havertz. And Kai Havertz obviously feels the contact, goes down. I don't blame him for that at all. But the referee then has a decision to make, and I think if the on-field referee gives the penalty, is VAR overturning that? And I'm not sure anymore. I'm not really too sure of the VAR as a whole, but I think it was completely needed from Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think it was completely necessary, and I think he's a little bit lucky. He's a little bit lucky on that one. But I think the same thing with I said with Liverpool in the fact that they huffed and puffed but didn't really create many chances. I think the same for Arsenal. I think what a fantastic opportunity they had, but it wasn't a chance, was when Gabriel Jesus got the ball on the right hand side and he flashed it across the box. And there was no Arsenal player there whatsoever. There was no Martinelli, there's no Kai Havertz, no Odegaard, and that's where you need them to be. Because if they were there on the edge of the 6-yard box, they had a tap in. They had an absolute tap in, and it was very unfortunate that no one can capitalise on it. But I thought to myself, maybe at that point were Arsenal just clinging on to the fact that they got themselves back into the game, really just hoping to solidify that, maybe. And I think if they were a bit more ballsy, they could have actually taken that initiative, made that run, and they could have had a tap in one of the Arsenal players. And I think for Liverpool, one thing we really need to talk about is in the last 2 games, I think Jurgen Klopp's substitutions have weakened the side, if I'm being completely honest. I think Jurgen Klopp made some substitutions against Manchester United, and he brought on 3 players, and then they kind of nullified the team a little bit, and which meant that he needed to bring on 2 more players later on to rectify the mistakes he made with those substitutions, to find a formation and a style of play that actually suited the team and didn't allow Man United to take the initiative. And in this game as well, he takes off Curtis Jones, Luis Diaz and Cody Gakpo. Luis Diaz you understand because unfortunately he looked like he had a bit of a knee injury, and obviously I think Nunes coming on was definitely what I wanted and what the fans clearly wanted as well, because Diaz wasn't having the best of games, and the fact that he had injury had to be taken off. But then Gakpo and Jones, I'm not too sure about. I think Jones has had, like I said, a fantastic game throughout. On the ball and out of possession, I thought he defended really well. And I think attacking, he linking up the play really well with Diaz and Gakpo. And I think to bring on Gravenberch, well, on paper looks like a perfectly fine substitution. But then Gravenberch comes on and drops a stinker, and you're just thinking to yourself, oh, that feels like, one where it's not Gravenberch's day, and you would prefer Curtis Jones to stay on. But I think the big one was Cody Gakpo for Harvey Elliott, because we've seen Klopp move Mo Salah centrally after he brings on another player. And I think it's fine in some instances when you're really going for it, you're really in the ascendancy. But what Cody Gakpo was doing, he's holding up the ball really well against an Arsenal's backline of Saliba and Gabriel, who were dominating the game, and Gakpo was really holding his own. But then when Salah went in that position, he wasn't really doing as good of a job. Because although he has pace and he's very strong for his diminutive stature, he actually he got the ball and he was being intercepted before he got the ball. He's being tackled and he wasn't quite reading the play. The chemistry wasn't quite right from Liverpool, and I think Arsenal, it really let them get a foothold in the game. Gakpo won 3 out of his 7 ground duels and 3 out of his 5 aerial duels, and it's not amazing numbers, but he was doing a job against 2, arguably world-class centre-backs. But then Salah, it wasn't quite working, and then Arsenal did get a foothold in the game, which I thought was a mistake from Klopp. And I think, against that Arsenal 3 diamond of a Saliba on the right, Gabriel on the left, and Declan Rice just in front of them, arguably that is on par with Manchester City's of Rodri, John Stones, and Diaz. And I think the thing is, what's really exciting from our perspective is those 3, Saliba, Gabriel, and Rice, they have an age advantage over Rodri, Stones, and Diaz. So they're really going to get better. And if we're saying they're already on par with those Manchester City, players who have just won the treble last season, and they can only get better, then it's scary what they could be defensively going forward for Arsenal if they stay fit. It could be really, really exciting. But ultimately, when you look at the game, and I think to myself, how do both teams go out and win the game? I think from Liverpool's perspective, you have to take your chances. 3 shots on target in that game. Twice Liverpool hit the woodwork. And most importantly, I think for Liverpool, that Trent Alexander-Arnold chance. Obviously, Zinchenko has a howler and he takes out Odegaard. Odegaard then slips, and then Liverpool are I think it's maybe 5-on-2. And I think Liverpool really should be converting from that chances. I think Nunez is on Salah's left, blocking one of the Arsenal defenders. And I think Declan Rice is left with Salah running at him. I think it's got Harvey Elliott immediately to his right. Ryan Gravenberch just 5 centimetres across from him. And Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. And I just thought to myself, okay, just play the pass to one of them and one of them will put it in the back of the net. And I've seen a lot of people say that Salah held on the ball for a little bit too long. I personally completely disagree with that, because I think Liverpool still got the chance and Liverpool still had a great goal scoring opportunity. And I think to myself, if that was Sadio Mane, would that ball be in the back of the net? Yes. If it was any of the other forwards that Liverpool have on their books, if it's an informed Jota, I think that's not even informed. I think if that's Jota, that ball's in the back of the net. I think if it's Gakpo and Nunez in form, I think the ball's in the back of the net. And I just think, it was very unfortunate for Trent Alexander-Arnold running a full pace to be able to hit that. But it does pose a question for Liverpool. Are Liverpool clinical enough at this moment in time? Against Man United, definitely not. But also, they didn't have shots from good opportunities. They had an XG, I think, of 3 or 4 in that game, but they had 35 shots. So that's, an XG of less than 0.1 per shot. So I don't think there was anything to take into account, really. But I think, with Diaz apparently injured, holding his knee, Jota out injured at the moment, Mo Salah going to the African Cup of Nations in January, Liverpool, are going to have to get through games in January with arguably Gakpo, Nunez playing every game, and a makeshift forward playing there, such as the Harvey Elliott, Dominic Szoboszlai, or maybe they could promote one of the youths as well. But I think, they're really going to struggle going forward in January, and they really need to get through it. And I think it's any case in which, any January in which the Mo Salah has been to Liverpool, African Cup of Nations comes along, and you just say to yourself, please, just Liverpool, get through that phase, because once the Mo Salah is back, everything seems to tick alright, and they find the rhythm. Previously it was Salah and Mane, which was even a bigger blow, but now this time it's just Salah. So Liverpool should have the forwards to be able to deal with that. From the Arsenal perspective, how do Arsenal go on and win that game? I don't think they had too many chances. I think they only had 2 shots on target in the whole game. Yeah, 2 shots on target, XG of 0.8. And I think to myself, Arsenal needed to have created more in that game, and I think they could have. Like I said at the beginning, on paper, I thought that Arsenal team was that best Arsenal team they could have put out, and I think they could have gone toe to toe with Liverpool at Anfield, and they could have come out on top. But the fact is, they ended up sitting back, and because of the way the game went, and which can of course happen at Anfield, they end up sitting back and trying to hit on the counter attack. It didn't quite work today, but I think they will definitely be happy with the draw. I think Liverpool will also be okay with the draw, but I think they'll come away the more disappointed side, as I feel like they should have maybe gone on and win the game. And Arsenal will say, we come to Anfield, we've drawn, it's okay, it's not the end of the world, and Arsenal are top of the league. So what have we learned? We've learned what I believe to be Arsenal's best starting 11. We've learned that Liverpool going forward need to be more clinical, and I believe that they're going to really struggle in January without Mo Salah, but that's obvious. But I think the other forwards really need to step up, and we've been complimenting Liverpool, saying I think the general narrative has been Liverpool outscore teams this season. But Gakpo is not in form, Nunez is in great form, Jota is injured, Diaz apparently is out injured. You're really relying on Mo Salah, and as a forward player, I'm sure he will love the opportunity to be the main man and to take all the chances and really drag the team up to his level. But if he's going to AFCON, that's going to be a really big struggle. And from a situation where Liverpool were looking in the summer and thinking to themselves, that's fine, we've got 5 great forwards, as Salah goes, it's fine, to now 2 are potentially out injured and the other 2 aren't firing, that's a real big worry. So Liverpool need to start firing as well. I think for Arsenal, I think we learned that they can compete with Liverpool toe to toe. I think what's they haven't had a great record at Anfield. The last time they won was in 2011 in the league. And I remember that game. I think Santi Cazorla scored a goal in that game. Arteta was the man the last time. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain was a player for Arsenal the last time that was. But I think, they haven't lost this season at Anfield. They haven't lost last season at Anfield. And I think eventually you start by not losing and then eventually go on and win. And I think it wasn't the massive morale boost that Arsenal wanted by going to Anfield and winning, but I think it definitely is a better result for Arsenal because they definitely performed very well on the day, and I think that's a defensive performance that I think we're really proud of.